Okay, gents, first look inside my cold hammer forged barrel. This is phosphate finished with a chrome lined bore. And you can see here we have some storage problems. Or something. But let's go deeper. So this is the chamber. This is the neck area going into the free bore. Sorry for the unsteady camera. There we go. And so far the leads look pretty decent. You can tell it's been fired and high pressure tested. It's a little bit dirty. I have not run a patch down through this yet. Some of the copper fouling. You can see this is where some of the protectorant is starting to go away. Looks a little bit jagged. Looks like it nicked a land, but that's to be expected with 6 grooves. Now let's take a look at the crown. And it looks pretty even and without any burrs. Let's put on the 90-degree camera and find out for sure though. So on the outside that may be corrosion, but here I think that just might be some sort of schmutz. Maybe that's where the oil pooled. Ooh, things are so much shinier. So here's the free bore. Looks like some sort of nick there maybe. But otherwise things look more or less even. Maybe a little bit of a shadow there. Let's keep going up. Here's what the gas port looks like. You can see. Maybe a little bit of burrage. Nothing I'm too worried about. Now let's take a look at the crown. Things look really, really smooth. Well, not smooth, straight and uniform. That's what I meant to say. With chrome lining, the way they do it, we might see some things that might look a little bit off. Just a touch. Ah, so here's the crown. Oh, what's that? Copper fouling? Okay. And so, yeah, I see nothing to be worried about here. Pretty good.
Welcome back, gents. Please forgive the wind. We have gusts in excess of 20 miles an hour. Generally, it's between 12 and 18, though. And this is going to be a quick little accuracy review of my Bear Creek Arsenal Cold Hammer Forged barrel. You can't really see it too much because it's a 16-inch. Stand by. I did not put any muzzle device on it, and I put it into my Aero Precision enhanced upper with the corresponding quantum rail. I didn't want anything else interfering because I want to do just a raw accuracy test. So I'm giving it the quote-unquote bench rest treatment. I guess before I babble on any further, let's go take a look at our groups, because we did some testing with some 52 grains, some 69 grains, and some 77 grain bullets. Okay, so our first group of targets are going to be the top 2 rows where I did a primer test and 52 grain Speer match bullets. Lapoule brass, testing Winchester 41 and CCI 41 primers and XMR 4064. These are very anemically loaded. I think these go around 2,800 feet per second. That's not very fast at all. Now, we're going up in 0.1 grain increments from 24 to 24.4. Historically, I have very good luck with this load in all my barrels, except this one. Now, I think some of this, to give the barrel a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Some of this is because this is a 5.56 barrel, not a 223 Wild like my other ones. And this brass is formed to how those other barrels are. When I get back to the bench, I'll have to measure headspace and what have you. That can have an effect. Although still, I was hoping the most for these, and these are the ones that generally did the worst. I think of all these, this is the one that did the best. You'll notice that some of them are 5-shot groups, some are 3-shot groups. That's because of brass availability, not just stupidness. But yeah, none of these are to write home about, but it looks like the Winchester 41s actually maybe shot a little bit more consistent in terms of point to impact, because they all seem to be to a little bit to the lower left. This is a little bit higher. This, we're going lower. That's kind of the general theme here. We're going lower here too. And things are generally to the lower left, but this one's obviously higher. And then you have this gross outlier here. I'm just really surprised the CCIs did that poorly. Usually they do pretty good. The next load that we did, Nosler 69 grains, again, Lapua brass, Winchester 41 primers, and Shooter's World tactical powder, going from 23 to 23.8 grains in 0.2 grain increments. So this, starting off, is the max load for a 223, and we're going into 5.56 territory. And here we are. And it's both better and worse. I mean, you have some terrible ones like this. That's bad. But, you know, actually, on second glance, I mean, this is definitely one of the better groups, right? But otherwise, maybe about the same, because this is definitely a scatter node, because look at this. Core group over there, flyer up there, then with this one, the charge below, you have these grouped up there, and then a huge flyer out there. I mean, overall in the grand scheme of things, they're hitting in the same area, but this is definitely a place we don't want to be. And then this is just kind of more of a general, but we got this double grouping going on. So part of it might be because it's a heavier bullet with a faster burning powder, but 77 grains did not seem to have that problem. This is overall pretty good. Centered where my scope was too, that's convenient. Here, started going up. Here, we had a nice tight group with one flyer. Things spread out horizontally, and then things tighten up again. And by the way, 4 shots, 1 second. I think that one's the overlap. So some overlap here, but then the fish shot flew down below. And I would like to claim that as a flyer, but I'm not going to. There's nothing saying that that's not appropriate for going there, because let me say one thing though. This is a government profile barrel, cold hammer forged. Before, I'm used to firing heavy barrel profiles, and I will tell you, there is definitely a difference in heat. Rather, I should say, there's definitely a difference in heat mitigation. So anyway, overall, judging from these, I mean, yeah, is this comprehensive? No. And 2 of these use the same powder, same primers, even though it's a different bullet. Not too drastic of a different, but definitely different makes. These were Sierra Match Kings, 77 grains. These were Nosler Custom Competitions in 99 grains. These were Speer 52 grains. And these were all quote-unquote match bullets. And none of them really did great. I mean, they didn't do terrible. So yeah, overall, this gun is not really... This is not a shooter. But I didn't have huge expectations anyway. It's a 16-inch cold hammer forged chrome lined barrel. It's also 5.56, not 223 Wild. Not that that makes a huge difference, but this barrel is definitely meant more for, I'm going to go ahead and say run and gun, but that's part of the reason why I bought this barrel. Is it's more of a lighter profile, and I have a friend that's more into 3-gun shooting and sling shooting, and so this is going to be adapted for that. I just did all this to test the accuracy of the barrel as the best way that I know how. And this is just a quick overview. We have expectations. Now we're going to go back to the bench. We're going to change out the upper. We're going to change out the handrail. And, well, we'll be back. And we're going to test some actual loads. Also measure the brass.
Okay, so now that we have about 120 rounds through the barrel, let's take a look, while we're switching uppers, at what the bore looks like. This is before any sort of cleaning. And remember, this is a chrome lined barrel. The big thing I want to show is how much copper fouling there is. There's no way that we're going to break in this barrel, but because of the inconsistencies that's kind of inherent with a chrome lining, so that's an additive, that's not a surface treatment, this is added material to the bore, and so there's about at least 2/10,000ths worth of variation. You can see throughout the whole barrel how consistent it's basically stripping the copper off the bullet. It's not terrible, but this is definitely worse than what I'm used to seeing with a bore that only has a surface treatment or is just bare stainless steel. I'm also going to post some pictures of the cleaned barrel so you can see how overall consistent the grooves are, but also you can kind of see, especially in the second photo, where you can see some of the variations with that chrome lining are, near the bottom. Delta rings are a pain in the butt, but everything's installed, so let's get our handguard installed. Welcome back, gents. Very windy day out here again, gusting upwards of 20 miles an hour with steady winds between 12 and 18. So another great day for shooting, and what a transformation this has went through. This is still my Bear Creek Arsenal cold hammer forged 16-inch chrome lined phosphate finished carbine length gas system setup. I switched the uppers. I went back to the it's a standard upper, has a delta ring, standard gas block, and the Magpul MOE carbine length, I guess you call this a clamshell handguard. There we go. Wow, that's a lot of mouthful. Mil-spec lower, that's from New Frontier Armory. It's basically plastic. The thing that's the most expensive thing about this whole setup, other than the bolt carrier group, which is nickel boron, is the trigger. This is the 75th anniversary Timney trigger. About a 3-pound pull, single stage. Very nice. Again, not top shelf, but nice. And basically, what I'm used to showcasing on this channel, because I have more of a bench rest background, is something that looks a little bit more like this, where we got a full-length 15-inch handguard, 20-inch barrel. This upper has a muzzle brake. I don't always sport that. Nickel boron, and then some sort of 20 power scope. This is actually 24 power, if I recall correctly. Yep. So there we go. This I brought out here to kind of just show the loss of velocity, but also what accuracy we might be giving up, because the barrel behind me, this upper is generally capable of about half-inch groups. I have shot better, but we also have the benefit of a high-power scope, and usually I sit and bench rest. This thing, completely different purpose built. Although last time I came out, I did put it in a Freefloat handguard and my almost said Aero Extreme, my Aero Precision Enhanced upper, just because it was simple more than anything. Honestly, I don't see any sort of difference when it comes to uppers and accuracy. Anyway, I have a friend I've been shooting with, and he doesn't do too much bench rest. He does more of the type of style of shooting that's, I'm going to go ahead and say run and gun, but it's more like 3-gun or sling shooting. So he does a lot of standing, he does a lot of kneeling, he does a lot of moving, and that's how he does his shooting. So when I brought some of my rifles, and they looked like this, he laughed. And of course, we're both hand loaders, but again, our mindsets are completely different. He hand loads basically just to save money. He doesn't really care about honing a group. As long as his vertical and his point to impact are more or less in the same area, he's a happy clam. I, on the other hand, I like to tinker, so I'm always trying to find the next best thing. But this is me attempting to copy him. So that way we can be more on the same footing. So that's the story behind this setup. So what do we plan on doing today? Well, I do have my magneto speed. Like I said, we're going to see if there's a velocity difference in the ammo that we have loaded up. I'm also going to do, I guess we'll call it a nominal
reliability test. So I have a full mag here, 20 rounds, and we're just going to pop them off as fast as we can and see how things do. We're also going to see how well the gas timing is, because I'm not the most familiar with these carbine length gas systems, and this is not an adjustable gas block. That's just straight standard right there. And yes, I did not opt for the sight post. We're just using a red dot sight, and this is not its final form either. I am going to drill and pin it, because honestly, I do not like the force that the delta ring ultimately puts on this. Otherwise, we're torqued to spec, and we're good to go. But we're going to see how well we do. And by the way, I have these set up here. I have this set up on here for display purposes. I plan on more or less shooting offhand today. So I'm going to set some targets up at 50 yards. We're going to see how well we do. Wow. 1, 2, 3. Didn't lock the bolt back. These are max load 223, not 556. I just finished my functional reliability test, just a single 20 round mag, and the rounds that landed here, I actually bounced off of that. Otherwise, we're looking at a pattern that's 3 to 4 o'clock. So nothing to complain about there. These are max load 223 rounds, so not 556. Also, I'm using an H2 buffer, so honestly, we got room to grow. And I did bring out some higher power charges. We'll test some of those next. Okay, so this is with the 16-inch barrel. This is 24 grains, there we go, 24.5 grains of tactical shooter. I only caught 4 of the 5, so the average, 29.74. 96. That's actually that's actually not a terrible standard deviation, although sample size of 4, so kind of meaningless. But extreme spread 27. There's better, there's worse. Okay, this is going to be the velocities for my Shaw. Come on. The average 31.68. High 31.89, the low 31.58, standard deviation 12, extreme spread 31. So we're in the ballpark, and we managed to capture all 5 shots. So basically, let's go ahead and say that 4 inches a barrel nets you, for this powder and bullet combination at least, 200 feet per second more. Roughly, a little less. There's my first set from trying to sight in my red dot. This is at 50 yards. There's my second. My last shot. That's pretty good. Okay. I think we're centered. I think we're scoped in. Next 5-shot group. Can't complain too much. Okay, so for these, I knelt down and I did adjust the scope a little bit. But probably on me, I still have some that went up towards the upper left. Otherwise, I think we're good. So for my first little event, I guess we'll go ahead and say, for actually testing my metal with this platform, I think we're good. We're going to see how well we do. This is primarily going out and testing reliability and function. I didn't have any issues. I think we're great. So I'm not going to complain for basically offhand shooting at 50 yards. Woo! Look at how flat those primers are. So that was 26 grains of Shooter's World Tactical Rifle. Maybe we were pushing a little bit hard, but you want to know something? It's still, the brass was still timed, the gas system was still ejecting at a 3 o'clock pattern, so no complaints there. And I don't see any evidence of gas leakage, which really makes me happy. Sometimes with gas blocks, you can have those issues, but I'm not seeing even a monitor mount. Even when I look down in there, camera's probably not picking it up the best, but just trust me on that one. So maybe I'll just leave it alone. Maybe I won't even pin it. Maybe I'll see how long it lasts without pinning. Either way, for a very entry-level setup, because this, again, it's a cold hammer forged barrel, and it cost me, I think, $130, because I got it on sale with a coupon. There is areas for improvement in terms of weight savings. I could have went with some sort of pencil profile barrel, whether it was from, again, Bear Creek or Ballistic Advantage, one of their Hansen barrels that was thin profiled, or a Faxon gunner profile. That probably would have been a little bit better in terms of weight distribution, but I'm a tinkerer. I saw cold hammer forged, I saw chrome lined, I said to myself, Self, I have never fired one of these barrels before. We're going to make it happen. And so we're going to tinker. So here we go. And I'm very happy with it, even though when I put it in my Aero Precision upper, trying to stretch its legs in terms of accuracy, there was nothing to write home about. Who knows? Maybe it actually shoots better in this sort of thing. Maybe there's something about the harmonics of this, although conventional wisdom would tell you otherwise. But maybe I'll try. Maybe even with the red dot, maybe I'll try for 100-yard groups. We'll see how well we do. Sadly, I'm out of ammo, but whatever. Anyway, I'm babbling. So I'm going to pick up my brass, do some more inspection. Hopefully I didn't get anything that was pierced, and we'll go from there. In case you were wondering about the size of the groups that the Shaw upper was firing with those Bob's bullets and Shooter's World Tactical, there you go. Roughly about 2 inches. And you can see we got a little bit of flyer to the left there. Those corresponding ones I got, even with the red dot sight, at 50 yards. Yeah, it's part of the group, not necessarily me.